AI works. Look into my eyes, it works. Coffeezilla calls this AI spending a bubble. He's right, but he missed the real reason companies are betting billions. And that's where the story gets interesting. These companies aren't just chasing hype, they're fighting a death match. Microsoft, Amazon, Google, Oracle, Nvidia. They all know what happens when you miss a paradigm shift. Sony once dominated consumer electronics, but when they ignored flat panel TVs, they lost their edge to Samsung and LG. BlackBerry owned mobile email, but missed the touchscreen revolution. Yahoo was once the gateway to the internet, but failed to adapt to search and social. Miss AI and you risk irrelevance. That's why they're putting everything on the line. They don't want to be the next cautionary tale. And that's why the scale of their spending makes sense. Here's the real twist. This isn't about chatbots. The fight is over infrastructure. Think AWS in the 2000s. Amazon didn't just build servers, it built the backbone of the internet. Today, Amazon isn't really an online marketplace anymore. Its bottom line comes from cloud. Twitch can fail, Prime shows can flop, retail margins can shrink. None of it matters so long as the world keeps buying AWS. That's the model. Build the utility grid everyone depends on. Now, these companies are racing to build the backbone of intelligence. Hyperscale GPU clusters, specialized networking, global data centers. Whoever wins controls the utility grid of AI, the way AWS controls cloud compute. And that's why Coffeezilla's bubble lens only tells half the story. Because yes, he's not wrong. Pareto dynamics say most of these bets won't pay off. Just like the dot-com era, capital will burn, valuations will collapse, and only a handful of winners will remain. But here's the paradox. Bubbles leave infrastructure. The dot-com bubble funded fiber optics, server farms, and e-commerce rails. Netflix and Amazon thrived because the wreckage left them a backbone to build on. AI will follow the same pattern. Even if half these companies fail, the GPU clusters and data centers will remain. And if you've been skeptical, you've already seen this pattern before. And let's pause here to give credit where it's due. If you've been skeptical of the AI boom, you're not wrong. You've seen the froth, the hype, the endless promises, and you've trusted your instincts. That skepticism is exactly what keeps us honest. Coffeezilla is right to smell the bubble, and you were right to question whether these companies can deliver. That conviction matters because bubbles only look obvious in hindsight, and you're already ahead of the curve. But skepticism alone doesn't mean the technology isn't real, because here's the truth. AI works. The technology is real. The problem isn't viability, it's timing. It's too early to adopt at scale, and politics can block it overnight. Dock worker unions have already negotiated contracts to prevent AI usage because they know they could be replaced. That's the paradox. The tech is advancing every day, but front-loaded costs can be regulated into oblivion at the stroke of a pen. And that's why companies aren't just building tech, they're building legitimacy. Think about it. These companies aren't just building capacity for demand that doesn't exist yet. They're building competence. Running hyperscale AI data centers isn't just about buying GPUs. It's about logistics, cooling, networking, redundancy, and global deployment. By overbuilding now, they're training their organizations to repeat the process at scale, and they're building brand recognition in the process. Whoever proves they can reliably deliver AI infrastructure earns credibility. That matters when nations, militaries, and global institutions decide who to hire to build their AI grids. And here's another layer. The money moving around isn't just spending, it's alliances. No single company has all the competencies needed. Some know hardware, others know AI. Some just have the political connections to secure electricity. What we're watching is titans sizing each other up, forming strategic partnerships to fight the other partnerships. These aren't just business deals, they're political alliances for the fight to come, and those alliances set the stage for the geopolitical dimension. Because this isn't just corporate competition, it's geopolitical positioning. Nations are already signaling they want sovereign AI grids, infrastructure they can trust, built by proven partners. The EU has announced billions for AI through its Invest AI initiative, promising gigafactories and sovereign compute. But here's the catch. Europe has a history of overregulating its own industries into paralysis. If this money gets tied up in bureaucracy and token projects, it won't matter how big the headline number is. The real build-out will still come from American companies because they move faster, take risks, and already have the muscle. Germany is a case in point. Even with EU funding, it's contracting US hyperscalers to build data centers. That dependence shows the imbalance. The prize isn't app revenue, it's national contracts worth hundreds of billions, locking in decades of dominance. And unless Europe proves it can execute, those contracts will go to the Americans. It may seem odd, but these huge companies are embarking on an entrepreneurial endeavor. It's the sort of thing a random guy does when he quits his job to open a restaurant. Reckless, completely without merit, and sometimes the guy is right. We don't normally see trillion-dollar companies behave this way. Facebook tried with the metaverse and it flopped. But sometimes the gamble pays off and the entire paradigm shifts. So, if you're evaluating this in terms of price to earnings, then hands down, it's a bubble. Besides, it's not surprising to see a growth-oriented endeavor fail to produce profits in the short term. That's the nature of building new paradigms. Losses precede infrastructure. But here's the distinction. The spending isn't alone. It's not purely cash generated from speculative stock sales, setting aside OpenAI. These companies are spending money they've stockpiled over years to make one huge bet. This isn't a house of cards built on someone else's money. It's a capital investment in research, a gamble on survival funded by their own war chests. And that brings us to the final thought. So yes, Coffeezilla is right. There will be losers. Just like the dot-com bubble, capital will burn. But the survivors won't just have capacity. They'll have the skills, the muscle memory, the brand recognition, the alliances, and the geopolitical legitimacy to own the next paradigm. Coffeezilla sees a bubble. I see a deathmatch for legitimacy. A fight to decide who builds the AI grids nations will depend on. And maybe it's just the cold, dead heart of a businessman speaking, but even as I find myself running underfoot of these terrifying times, I have to say, I'm rather excited for what comes next. Plenty of opportunities for us clever types to make use of. After all, Coffeezilla came to us on the backbone of the internet built by the dot-com bust. One can only imagine what rascals will come next.